Hello, everybody. It's Saturday, March 28th, day number 13 of the quarantine of the coronavirus crisis. And I hope that you and your family find creative ways to enjoy each other on this first day of the weekend. A few years ago, actually it's been several years ago now, probably 9 or 10, we became aware of a fascinating little technology device, which is the projector clock. And I don't know if you've seen one of those or not, but you put it on your nightstand or your dresser or whatever, and it projects a digital image of the time. So in the middle of the night, if you're like me and you wake up several times a night, you just glance up at the ceiling and you know what time it is. And there was an additional feature that it gave you the temperature. Now you could choose whether you wanted the indoor temperature, which doesn't really matter because you're in bed, or the outdoor temperature. It kind of gives you a little heads up about what's happening outside, whether it's cold or warm or whatever. So I dearly loved that projector clock, and we had it. It worked beautifully for the 4 or 5 years, I guess, and then it just decided to stop functioning. So we immediately got on Amazon, ordered another one, thinking it would be just like it or at least as good as. And almost from the beginning, once we plugged it up and it set up on the atomic clock, it had problems. The biggest being that it would not register the outdoor temperature. So I'm monkeying around with it a lot and tried to figure out what was wrong, but I got a little lazy in the whole process and didn't return it. Eventually it became too late and it was not that big of a deal, so I just settled with the time-only projection on the ceiling. And that went along for like 3 years. And then a few months ago, something really strange happened. All of a sudden, the clock would only show Central Time. So 2 hours ahead of what we are here on the West Coast. And I would, work pushing buttons and changing things. I read the instructions carefully, and I went back. I would get it to readjust to Pacific Time, and I thought, okay, we're set now. And it would, within a matter of hours, would reconfigure to Central Time again. So this happened multiple times. And I was about ready to throw the thing out when all of a sudden it started showing the outdoor temperature. So we had a ceiling projector that was 2 hours ahead, but gave us the temperature outdoors. So I thought, well, I can subtract 2 from the number that I see all the time and learn to live with that. And I've been doing that since I started seeing the outdoor temperature. Well, 2 days ago, it stopped showing the temperature again. So now I have a clock that's 2 hours ahead, no temperature, and I'm left with the decision, okay, I'm going to have to replace the clock. But there was a lesson in that clock that I've come to appreciate, and that is we need to always be thinking ahead, looking ahead, anticipating what is to come. Now, none of us know what's going to happen 2 seconds from now, let alone 2 hours from now, 2 days from now, 2 weeks from now, 2 years from now. Life is a mystery beyond this exact moment. We have no control, but we can prepare. And during this crisis, we've all been reminded of the importance of preparing. This is why we have seen the runs on the stores, the toilet paper and sanitizers and all of the things, some of which don't even make sense to us, but it's happened because people weren't prepared, and then they go overboard and they're hoarding and reacting. And I suppose, in a sense, it's understandable. But it makes me think we should always be vigilant and anticipating the unexpected. I don't think there are any of us in this country that live in a truly surprise-free geographical zone. If it's not tornadoes or hurricanes or
earthquakes, it's going to be something else.
so there, needs to be that sense of preparation and anticipation. So
One lesson,
what I've learned through all of this is always be ready for a disaster of some sort. Hopefully, it's not anywhere near the magnitude of what we're in right now, but you just never know when you need to be prepared.
and
You can apply that to spiritual things as well. We need to anticipate the realities of our own frailty. We,
may not be here tomorrow.
in the best of circumstances,
Things can happen. Life is
is unpredictable, life is short, and we need to be
ready for whatever comes, and that includes
our own spiritual destiny as well.
the other day, I guess it was yesterday,
Today, I made some reference off the cuff to my hair and
getting a haircut, the need
of
of
a haircut. And I see that it's even more today than it was yesterday.
You may not know,
If you know me really well, you might have known that I never went to a barber until I was 18 years old. Until I went to college, I had never been inside a barber shop. My mother always cut my hair. And we usually did it in the kitchen. She had this little kitchen chair.
kind of a thing that it was a stool that I always sat on.
And she had the most horrible clippers in the world. And I can remember so many times as she was cutting my hair, it would pull and yank, and it'd be very painful. But I didn't realize that everybody in the world didn't get their hair cut at home. I knew what a barbershop was, but it was kind of like a mystery to me. And one day when I was about 9 years old, I think it was, she was cutting my hair. Rather than in the kitchen, we went outside under the clothesline. I can remember to this day the sheets were hanging and blowing in the sunny air and drying, and it was just a very beautiful day. The grass was a bright green, and we had some flowers in the back that were very pretty. And
Mother started
talked to me about heaven. And my mother was an orphan herself. Her father died of rabies when she was a little girl, and then her mother died a year and a half later. And she was
fortunately, she had
much older sibling. She was the baby of the family. She had a brother
brother who was a preacher. He was 18 years older than she, and he took her in, became her guardian. So she
had a lot of experience in her immediate family as a child with death and with the idea of
loved ones
going on before. And then she lost a husband in World War II,
and was tragically
left a young widow and a young mother.
with my sister. So my mom had a hard life.
In her early days, and she had a lot of baggage emotionally and mentally, but she never really,
Was affected by that, at least
I
I
never noticed it, because she had a vision
of life as it should.
should be, and her trust in God was amazing. So that day, getting my haircut, when she was telling me the story, her
Concepts of heaven,
describing it as we read in the book of Revelation, this wonderful city,
and the pearly gates and the jewel encrusted
crusted walls and golden streets and all that. For a young kid, that was a beautiful image. And she talked about what it would be like when we get there.
and she painted a beautiful picture.
Sure, and
One of the things that she said was, we just need to be ready, because we never know.
know when we're going to be called, when it's going to be our time. So today, I just wanted to play a couple of songs about heaven. One is an arrangement that I wrote, which is
Within itself, a little bit of
a
a
medley. Shall we gather at the river face to face? I think there's another song in there. And also the song Until Then. One of my very dear friends in our church asked if I would be taking requests, and I said, well, yeah, sure, whatever. And what would you like me to play? And he said, Until Then, which has always been a very
personal favorite of mine.
So I happily agreed to
Play that, and I'll be doing that today.
after I play the Medley of Heaven. So I hope that you'll be thinking about your own personal preparation and
Anticipation, because we're all going to have a last
day here at some point. We don't know when that is. And the clock may be 2 hours ahead, and we have to think about what's going to happen between now and when we get there.
I hope that
That
this will be a blessing to you.
I encourage you today to go outside if you can and look for ways to be reminded of heaven. God bless. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow.